It has, and that forms the link to the next story that I want to tell you briefly about. Mike Willesee and I were asked if we would assist this professor in examining a case in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And the story is that this priest, Father Zep, found in his church after Mass an abandoned communion host. Now, normally the protocol is if the host falls on the floor of the church, the priest will consume it, but if it's dirty, they'll normally put it into a bowl, allow the host to dissolve, and then do something with it that's more sacred than just throwing it away. And in this case, the priest put the bowl into a tabernacle and locked the tabernacle. And then in 2 or 3 days, he opened up the tabernacle and noticed that a blood-like substance had begun to come from the host, and that was photographed. And you'll see there it was, just probably about 8 or so days afterwards, and there it is from a side view. You can still see the host visible with the transformation occurring around it. And then a few days later, 6th of September, you can see that the blood has increased in quantity, and there it is from the side. Quite a significant transformation from the host that existed a matter of 3 weeks beforehand. And so the Cardinal of the city gave permission for us to carry out an examination of this. That was in 1999, some 3 years after the event. And the interviews were taken of the various priests involved, and there was how it was in 1999 when we were permitted to take a tiny piece away for examination. There you see the severing of a piece for examination. There's the piece we took away. We were given complete freedom to do whatever tests that we wanted to on this. We weren't in any way directed by the church to do it. It was to be an independent examination, and then our report was to be given back to the church after that examination was complete. The first tests that were done were DNA tests. And interestingly, again, the DNA test showed that there was the presence of human DNA, but it would not yield the genetic profile of the author. So we had a second case where there was something special about the blood. Also, they found that there was the evidence of both flesh and blood in this sample. And we then had to identify what that flesh was. There you see, if anyone's conversant with pathology, you can see there how our sample looked. It didn't look exactly like normal cardiac muscle, but we eventually found out why. We went to a forensic pathologist in the United States, New York. He was told nothing about the story. And he wanted to know, of course, what we're looking at. And we said, no, it's important for you to do this as a blind test. So Mike and I were there, watching him look down that microscope, awaiting his answer. And he says, I can tell you exactly what this is. This flesh is part of the muscle of the heart. It's the muscle that gives the heart its beat and the body its life. And he says, I can see infiltrated through this tissue white blood cells. And that tells me two things. That this heart was alive at this moment, the moment that this sample was taken. And also those white blood cells go to address injury. So this heart has suffered. And then he ventured further and he says, this is the sort of thing I see in people who have been, or in patients that I've seen, who have been beaten severely around the chest. Now, you can imagine that. This man is giving to us a story through this microscope that's consistent with one we're familiar with.